welcome to another edition of Active Living. We got our traveling man, Jim, here again. Jim has been traveling around the world as usual, and this time he's taken a tour over in Europe to do a little river touring. So Jim, tell us about your latest adventure.
All righty, George. Yeah, this is what we call Danube 2. I went there about a year ago, and it was a Christmas tour of the Danube.
Okay.
But we had other countries involved. We had Poland and 3 days in Krakow and that, and then we went on the Danube cruise and ended up in Prague. This one goes from Budapest to Prague, so it was another good trip. And I might say this, that we flew from Detroit right to Frankfurt. Frankfurt had a 2-hour layover and then went to Budapest, picked us up there. And the good thing about this was we had about 3 days in Budapest, which we didn't have the last time.
All right.
And so we had a lot of opportunities to see a lot of other stuff there. So I have to give credit to my traveling partner, Samantha, and then we met a couple from California. Her name was Erna, and she called her name Erna the Million, was the way to remember her name, and her husband Craig. So we took a lot of good pictures. We did a lot of togetherness there. So it's a really good trip, and meeting friends like these on these trips are fabulous. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have a good time, and you kind of mold into groups, you know. And so we had a pretty good group. Some other people enjoyed, but these were the main ones we focused with most of the time. Going to Budapest, there was a lot of things to see that I didn't see the last time. You know, first we started with the Heroes statue or square, where they had this monument here that goes back many years, and it's dedicated to the various rulers that were in Hungary. And real nice. They had one large statue which has the angel Gabriel on a very high pedestal there.
Right.
And very nice there. And there were some people dressed in local costumes because it was a holiday on the day we arrived. So
oh, man,
the city was dead, you know, not dead, but then we had a chance.
lucked out.
Yeah, we really lucked out there. So, and it was excellent there. So, and then from there, you know, we had a chance to get out and witness and take some pictures. Last time we just drove around it, you know, and that was it. And say, that's it, bye.
Right.
So
right.
this time we had a chance to stop and talk and take some good pictures there. Then we took the bus to what they call the Fisherman's Bastion, which is another large place where these monuments are. It's behind what they call there's a church called the St. Matthias Church. But another great area to visit, a lot of good pictures. You overlook the Pest side of the river, and there's some beautiful pictures you can take of the river and the Parliament buildings and such.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's really a very picturesque. There'll be some pictures in there. Where we stayed at was the Hilton. It was a nice, you know, and again, the hotels are great.
Yeah.
We had a chance to be close to the subway in that. And the neat thing about this, there's a lot of things that are very close. We took a walking tour where we had a chance to go see various buildings, and one we saw where they had a military dress parade and that.
Really?
So I have a little clip on that, a video, and then as you walk there, we saw a statue of Ronald Reagan, so I had to take a picture of Ronald Reagan.
I've seen that too.
Have you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bronze statue.
Yeah, it's a bronze statue.
It's kind of a more than life size though.
Just about your size, yeah. It was about size there. It was kind of neat there, and the thing about that was that in that same area, as you walked there was a whole park there called, I think it was called Liberty Square. And it was dedicated to the Russians, who actually was there for many years, okay?
Right.
So you can't take that statue down. And then they had another area there where they had like a little exhibit of the Jewish Holocaust. They had pictures and luggage and things of that nature by the statues there that they had erected there. So it's the Russian one. The Russian influence has to remain there.
Well, how about down to the dock areas? Did you visit down there?
Oh yeah.
Where the shoes?
Yeah. Oh, much in that. Yeah. Much in
yeah.
that. Yeah. So the next day we went to what you call the Jewish synagogue, which is the second largest. Well, it's the largest synagogue in Europe. The biggest one is in Jerusalem. So this is the second biggest one, and it can hold up like 3,000 people at a time. Interesting about that, when the congregation comes together, the women go on the balcony, and the men are on the floor, on the first floor.
Really?
There's some controversy about that. I don't know why they do that, but it's an Orthodox thing, and so I don't know. But the unique thing about that, they had exhumed a lot of bodies there, and they have like 3,000 bodies that are buried on the grounds there, and they had this beautiful cemetery that's actually right next to the church. It was really pretty interesting. And then at the back of the church, they had a couple of monuments. One was for Raoul Wallenberg. They have a wall, like a stained glass part there, was actually done by a woman who was in the in the death camps and such, and she
Oh.
actually made this, and they brought her back to dedicate this thing.
Okay.
At the same time, they have what they call a tree of life there. It's like a willow tree, and on each leaf they have the name and the number of the person who actually died in these camps.
Oh, wow.
That was amazing. I mean, this whole tree, I mean, you'll see it in the picture there. So it's like a weeping willow, which is really interesting there. And
Wow.
then, as you stated there, since our boat was parked in the Danube, which wasn't there the last time, we did to the shoe part of it on the memorial on the Danube River.
Right.
And so I have a little video of that. We'll see that on there also. So.
But the shoes, you got to tell the story.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting story there. The way I understand it, the way they told us that, what they basically did, they brought this, it actually was the Czech group that brought these people to be killed, basically. So they brought the Jews to the river, and they would have one person in the middle, and they would tie a person each side of the person in the middle, and they would shoot the guy in the middle, and they would dump the other two in the river, and they would drown because they were tied to the other person's ankles.
Right.
And so they only used one bullet instead of 3 bullets to kill the person. And that was pretty bad. I mean,
But before they jumped in, they had to leave their shoes.
That's right. And now they have some embedded there, which are all in cast iron or something like that. And
Right.
now they put pebbles and flowers and that in there as a remembrance to
Sure.
the people that were actually killed there. So along that whole promenade, which was nice, there was what they call the chain link bridge, which is kind of an interesting one. I thought it was chains, but it's like links. And it goes, it's like links rather than chain, but they call it chain link bridge. And she had a chance to walk it and such, and kind of interesting bridge how they built it. And it was built way back in 1850 because they had no crossover from one side of the river to the other. And then you had to go almost to Vienna before you could cross over.
Right.
And then when the Germans came, they destroyed the bridge and they had to rebuild it back in 1950 or something like that. So, and the neat thing about us, as you're walking around all these places, that you'll see these statues, and so I was going down the promenade. We saw one with the person drawing there, so I took a picture with myself there. There was one with the dog and the young child feeding the dog. So it was kind of nice walking. That was the only nice day. We had about 60 degrees. It was beautiful to walk the promenade all the way up to the shoes and all the way back to the boat.
Oh, yeah.
And the last part in Budapest was we went to this market. It was a covered market. It was like one of the little train station ones where you buy all your meat, vegetables, and things of that nature.
Right.
And on the second floor, had all kinds of souvenirs you can buy, local souvenirs, and it was pretty reasonably priced.
Yeah.
But it was a nice thing to visit off the boat there. So Bratislava was very interesting. And I might say here that over 400,000 Jews were actually died from Hungary that were in the Holocaust. So it was pretty significant for Hungary as far as the number of Jews that were actually terminated. Let's put it that way.
Well, Budapest has gone through quite a bit.
It has.
I remember when I was in college, it was at a time of the Hungarian revolt, and Russians put down the revolt pretty hard. But I had a good friend who happened to get to the United States to get away from it all.
Right.
And he was a student at the college I went to.
Oh, okay.
He happened to be a piano player.
Okay.
And
you being a musician, perfect.
the guy he knew 7 languages.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
And he was a student to be a doctor.
A medical doctor, or
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And he just got the heck out of there.
Oh, yeah, a good thing to do, that's for sure there. And there was a lot of people who actually were able to provide documents for the Jews to get out of there, but it's limited like 5 to 10,000 only, but it was difficult under those regimes there, unfortunately, when they tried to, cleanse the whole European continent of the Jews, unfortunately. And others, there was other
Right.
gypsies and, even the Russian soldiers
now-
they captured. So it wasn't just the Jews. It was
The
a
big
lot.
issue now is a lot of people trying to immigrate there from Africa.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
And
Europe has been
I don't know if you
inundated.
saw any of that while you were there.
No, I
But
did
we didn't.
not.
When I was there about 2 years ago, I didn't see any of that.
Didn't see much of it, not yet, but other countries have suffered, like Germany and that,
Right.
with the influx, and then Sweden is certainly hurting because of that,
Right.
and England even as far as that's concerned. From there, we traveled from Budapest to Bratislava, which is now in Slovakia. It's a nice little town there. Once again, there was a place of a Jewish synagogue that was there, and they tore it down. Now there's a monument there, memorial, indicating the Holocaust there. And within the town itself, a lot of Baroque architecture, which is the typical, a lot of these European countries and
Right.
such. They're all Baroque architecture. I like there was one thing, they had a nice little store it was a wine store, it was called the Wine Knot, N-O-T-T, which is kind of interesting, the sign for the
Why
store.
not?
Why not? You know, and you can drink wine there, so it's kind of a neat situation.
Yeah.
And again, once again, there's a lot of bronze statues. There was one with a hat, the guy's hat, so you go underneath it, you can take a picture of yourself. There was a guy that was in a sewer, as he come out of the
looking
sewer.
out of the hole.
Looking out of the hole, yeah,
Yeah,
was
I've
kind of
seen
neat.
that guy.
So you took that guy. Then you had Hans Christian Andersen, who had all these fairy tales for children.
Right.
He's got a statue in that park also. And so Bratislava has some interesting things. We went to the Bratislava Castle, which was on top of the hill. He gave us a chance to walk off the foods, because you know on these boats you eat a lot of food, unfortunately.
Right.
So you get to walk 4 or 5 miles every day, which was kind of nice. And it was a casual type of walk. So, and from that particular citadel, they had a bridge, and they have what they call this UFO observation point. It's on top of one of the pillars on the bridge, and they call it the UFO restaurant or observation tower. It looks like a UFO. It's been round. It sits right on this pillar.
Oh, missed it.
Didn't have a chance to go up on top of it. There was a limited amount of time there. It was kind of interesting. I didn't see it the last time. And within those that citadel, there were some beautiful gardens. There was that, you know, it was winter, so there was not any flowers, but it's still with the green shrubs and such.
Right.
And one of the things they also had in the town there's more than one statue. They have a pig statue, which shows that go to this restaurant, you can have pork and have the pig statue.
Okay,
Come on in,
right.
you know. So a little bit different than we were there during the Christmas time, because everything was decorated at Christmas and with the Christmas house and everything. So I didn't see some of this stuff the last time. So Bratislava is a nice little area there. So goes back about 2,000 years, just about the time of Christ, so it's an older city. So another great town. And then from Bratislava, I went to Vienna, and once again, we only had about a half a day there, unfortunately. Didn't see a whole lot. We did go to a Viennese concert, which was nice.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
They had some nice singing and dancing and such, and it was about an hour and a half, and it was after dinner.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. It was not too bad, about $60 or something like that, so it was pretty good. We did go to where they had the Habsburg Palace, or Habsburg Palace, I guess you can call it, and this is where Hitler had made the pronunciation. He annexed Austria in 1938, from the balcony from the Habsburg Palace there. So at least they point out, didn't see that the last time. And then nationally, you see the St. Stephen's Church, and they had an interesting display in there. They call it the Sky of Stones. They had the whole center part of the church decorated with these round kind of balls, and there'll be a picture that we'll have in there. It's called the Sky of Stones for the entire center of the cathedral, and it was kind of unique. It was kind of different.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting there. So that was Vienna. So not a whole lot of time in Vienna, but a good place to stop, saw the concert, and move on. Okay, so
yeah, right.
And then the next town we went to was Dernstein. Actually, this is where you climb the hill. Once again, you get about 3 or 4 miles where you're walking. You go to the top of what they call the Wachu Wine District, and we walked to the top of this hilltop where the ruins were at. There was protect the cities. They always had the highest spot for the castles were at, and protect the cities.
Exactly.
It's pretty well in ruins right now, and it's a nice little town there. There's a cemetery there, which is kind of interesting. Didn't see the last time. And the unique thing about that if you're buried there, after 10 years, they exhume the body and they take the bones out and throw them into this pit.
Really?
And you got this picture of all these bones there, but then you have to have a spot for the new body now. So it's only good for 10 years, so then you get moved, you know. So that was kind of interesting to say, oh, that's kind of interesting. So
well, you don't waste a lot of ground there.
No, I mean, they kept it pretty nice and clean. It was some very nice cemetery, but when you looked inside, so all these bones are just thrown in there. It was kind of interesting there. So. And then we spent about a half a day there. One thing I didn't buy, I wish I would have bought. They went to this one store. They had this can of or jar of candies, and in Austria, I don't know what it was, but on the bottom it says it was rabbit shit. So I wish I would have bought that, you know, but it was actually candies in there, but they called it rabbit shit. You know, oh damn it, should have bought that. You know, it's kind of interesting. So.
I hope we don't have to bleep that out, Jim.
Let's hope not. Okay. Yeah, so let's hope we don't have to bleep it out there. And as we're traveling, we saw this. Somebody had carved a beautiful statue as we're going down the river on the boat there of Mary and Joseph and Jesus. They're on the donkey there. It was on the riverside there, or on the river banks there. Had a picture, but it was hard to see there. So. Then we continued on to Milk.
Well, we're going to have to take a little break here, Jim.
Okay, sounds good. That was quick.
We'll be back in just a couple of minutes, okay?
All right, thank you. That was quick.
Find new treasures or sell a few of your own during Orion Township's Community Yard Sale on Saturday, June 1st from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Orion Center. Dozens of sellers will be set up in the parking lot offering clothes, knickknacks, home decor, and a whole lot more. While that is going on outdoors, vendors will be inside the Orion Center for the Toy and Comic Expo and Antique Market. That's right, 3 events will all be going on at the same time. That's the Community Yard Sale, Toy and Comic Expo, and Antique Market at the Orion Center on Saturday, June 1st from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Parking and admission is free. To get involved or for more information, call 248-391-0304, extension 3500, or visit OrionParks.com today.
We're back with Jim Robeck. Welcome back, Jim.
Okay.
That was a quick break.
It sure was.
But we're back, and you can kind of, where did we leave off?
We just finished in, was it Durnstein or, yeah, Durnstein.
Okay,
So
and now we're
moving up to the Melk Abbey. So
oh, that's a beautiful place.
it's a beautiful place, and yes, it's goes back to about 1100 or 11th century, and it was actually built by Leopold III, and then he turned it over to the monks, and so they've been had it since then. So interesting place. You could not take pictures inside, and it's so gilded inside there. And this has one of the biggest libraries. It's a very lavish library, which has over 80,000 volumes, and you saw them stacked from the floor all the way to the ceiling. You know, you can go in there and you can review these books, but I think they're all in Italian or whatever it is. You know, I don't know if we don't understand it, so somebody have to decipher it, I suppose. So couldn't take pictures inside, so I did take some pictures of the postcards there. So I'll have a couple of those slides when we see that in the video here.
Great.
So that's pretty well the Melk Abbey, but it's beautiful, it's something to see, and it just knocks your socks off. I mean, what you see there, just especially inside there, you know, the church. I mean, oh gosh, it's insane. You know,
Church had a lot of money back then,
oh
Jim.
God, all of these do. You know, surprisingly, we probably just be more security in all these places now since the thing with Notre Dame in Paris. You know, I think these churches have to be really cognizant of what's going on. They have to now, because these icons that they have, they got to be protected. There's no doubt about that. Then we continue on our trip. One thing we have, as you travel to Danube, you went through like 16 locks from Budapest to Passau.
Yep.
So you go up at night. We went through a couple at night, so I took some pictures, but they're hard to see. But we went through 16 locks. You wouldn't believe, you thought the whole river was just flat, but it's not. You go through locks all the way up to go to all the way to Passau. And I think there's 19 on the whole river. If you go east, there's about 3 more locks going east on the river there. But going west, there's 16 different locks there. In Passau, another great city here. It's a German town now. We're in Germany now. And here we had a chance to go to see this one church. It's called the St. Stephen's Cathedral. It has the largest organ in the world. It has something like 17,974 pipes and 213 registers. I'm not sure what that means, but it's the largest in the world. I mean, we didn't get to see or hear it play, but it's in this church with many icons in there once again. Again, these beautiful churches with all the, you know, statues and things they have there. It's just so amazing. It's incredible. You just knocks your socks off.
Money didn't seem to be an object back then.
Well, I think they preyed on the poor people. They did a lot of work, unfortunately. Yeah. And this was a town that has been underwater a couple times, where the river rises up like 30 feet. There's 3 rivers that converge. They're almost like in Pennsylvania. You have the Danube River, the Inn River, and the Ilz River. Is it the Ilz? Yeah, Ilz. And they converge there, and every so often they get flooded out. And the river rises like 30 feet, and all of a sudden the whole place gets flooded out. And it's kind of insane, but that's what happens there in this particular town of Passau.
I remember walking down the street and seeing the water levels at different years on the side of the buildings.
Man, so
unbelievable. Some of it gets up to like halfway up the second floor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you see that, you say, "Wow, how could they survive that?" It's amazing. So, yeah. Then there's the big castle on the other side of the river. We walked up again. This is another one of those things where you have a chance to walk your food off for 4 or 5 miles. You're pretty well up the mountainside. There's called the Oberhaus Castle. Once again, a very nice castle. A lot of things to see up there. Took some great pictures up there. So we take pictures of the city and the 3 rivers where they converged. And so it's a neat town. And did have a chance to go see the cuckoo clocks. Last time it was in Regensburg, but this one they had only 1 cuckoo clock store.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and the cheapest cuckoo clock was like $500. Or 500 euros, sorry, 500 euros, not 500 American.
It's even more.
Yeah, there was one there that was like 1,800 euros, which was the cuckoo clock of the year, apparently. So you could buy it for 1,800 euros, which should be around $2,200 American. So. Once again, you know, it's just a great city to see. And as we left Passau, then we were traveling now to Prague, and on the way we had snow. No, we didn't have snow. We went through an area where they had snow, it hadn't melted yet. So we threw a couple snowballs and all that, so we had some fun. Didn't make any angels, anything like that, because it was a little wet, the snow. So, okay, now we arrived in Prague, and now Prague being another great city where
it's fantastic.
I love Prague better than Vienna, but you know, I haven't spent any time in Vienna. So how do I compare? But basically Budapest and Prague really catch my fancy as far as I'm concerned. They're really great cities. Prague has so much to see. Again, you start with an astronomical clock, which you see in the background here. Every hour on the hour, these doors open up, these figurines, they kind of rotate in there. You got a guy on the side, there's a skeleton, he rings a bell as this 22 seconds of activity goes on.
Really?
And about 1,000 people, 1,500 gathered there, and after 22 seconds, all of a sudden the whole crowd disappears and everybody leaves, and that's it. So every hour on the hour, people converge. Once again, they see the 22 seconds, and they leave again.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Along with that, you have the St. Charles Bridge, which has many statues on there, or I mean monuments on the bridge on both sides.
Right.
Unfortunately, they're very dark because of the pollution. They're starting to clean a few of them up now.
Are they?
Yeah, and there's a lot of artists the day we were there. It was very busy because it was a holiday, and the bridge was loaded, and more so than the last time I was there. It was just all kinds of people there. And
I remember going across that bridge years and years and years ago. There was a Dixieland band there that was playing.
Right?
And the guy was singing Bill Bailey in Czechoslovakian, and he had cut off a trombone.
Is that right?
And put tape around the edge of it, and was using it as a megaphone when he was singing his song in Czech. It was very cool.
Yeah, we saw accordion
And
players.
then the other thing that got me was they had a guy that had a table full of glasses filled with water. And he would, use his finger on the top of the glasses and play tunes on that.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
It was great.
That. Okay. Along with it, we crossed the bridge and we found a place that goes John Lennon's wall there, where they painted the wall with all the graffiti and everything else.
Okay,
they tried to
have not
wash
seen
that a couple of times or paint it over, but they couldn't keep us on that. Now they leave it there, and there'll be a picture or two of that of John Lennon. And right from the mural was the restaurant. It's called the John Lennon Pub.
Oh,
and
really?
It's got the Yellow Submarine hanging from the door there, where one of their songs, the Yellow
no
Submarine.
kidding. Yeah, right.
It was kind of neat there, and so it's pretty darn good. So you could see that, and we hadn't seen it the last time in here. So let's go see that because we had plenty of time on our hands there. So then from there we went to the Ronley Castle, I guess they call it, and within that area they call it the St. Vitus Cathedral. Again, one of these large churches once again, and huge inside there. And
Is this the one that took them 700 years to build?
that one I don't remember. I'm trying to remember when it was built.
It was a huge church, I remember, in the town, and it was up on a hill. And the story was it took them 700 years to build the church.
Well, you see this one, could imagine this would take 700
That's
years.
probably the
it's
one.
probably the one because it's so ornate inside. Once again, the outside with all the gargoyles and the flying buttresses.
Yeah, we didn't get up to it. We just saw it from a distance.
Yeah, we went inside. We had a chance to get inside there in the whole castle grounds there. And there were some dignitaries there that they used it, but they're not using it that much anymore as far as the Parliament buildings and things of that nature. From there, we had a chance to go to the Jewish quarter, which you saw the Jewish synagogue there. There's a cemetery there. It goes back to like the early 1700s. There's something like 12,000 bodies are buried there because they were the only place the Jewish people could be buried was at this cemetery.
Okay.
And then they're piled high, on there, but you couldn't see in there. I didn't go in there. They got these old tombstones and all that stuff there, but that's the only place the Jewish people could be buried. So they piled them on top of each other, but it's all run down and everything else, so it's very hard. I took some pictures the last time there. This time I didn't have a chance to take any pictures, so we did have a chance to then go to a concert in Prague, again, the second concert, which had about 6 people who played, the violin. That was kind of neat. And then we also went to what we called a sense museum, where they had like, what do you call it, like, if you look at a face, they had this thing where you looked at a face, and there's like 9 faces. As you looked at it, it would follow you. I don't know how they did that. It was kind of interesting. Other things like they had a bed of nails, and there were some things you look into and say, what can you see in there? Well, I don't know. I can't remember what we saw, like a star and things like that. I couldn't perceive some of these, see the colors and all that.
Right.
And the best museum we saw, which I don't know, this could be deleted, the sex museum.
Oh.
Went to a sex museum. 3 floors of sexual things there, compared to the one we saw in Iceland, where we saw the phallus museum of penises, but us was more women type things,
Okay.
So kind of interesting. I got a couple of pictures. I'm not sure we can show them, but we'll go from there.
All right.
And then the last thing we saw was this place they won the Holocaust Museum, which was called Terezin.
Yep.
And again, it's out of the city of Prague, and we took a bus drive out there. And what this was, that the Germans tried to portray one of these camps as being resettlement for the Jews. And it started out that way. I mean, they had the school for the boys and the girls, and they had all these things, But as it got winded down, then it was more of a concentration camp where they brought the people there. The men were taken to work on various things like the railroad and build things of that nature. And once again, they were starved there, and it was just sad because in some of these rooms they had supposed to be like for maybe 20, 30 people. They packed like 200 into them. There's like one bathroom, and that was it.
Wow.
And one little pot-belly stove, and then you couldn't sleep because everybody had to stand up. They showed, but what they did, they had the Red Cross come in there during the war and say, "This is what we're doing. They're resettling the people." But it was a showpiece.
Yep.
And they had this one thing they had where you could actually do shave and shampoo. They had beautiful marble wash basins that never used. It wasn't used, just never. And nobody had a chance to clean and all that. And they had one of the problems they had with these camps was the lice and the various diseases they had. People died by the thousands. And I think there was something like over 200,000 people who went through this particular place there, and over 35,000 died in Terezin, and a lot of them were transferred from Terezin to other like Auschwitz and other places, and over 83,000 were sent to their death chambers in these other camps, that they had in Germany there. So
sad time, wasn't it?
It was certainly sad time. And one good thing, like the last one, like they had Hess, who ran Auschwitz. They found that guy and they hung him on the grounds there.
Yeah.
They got this other guy that's called named Heinrich Jokel, and they got him too. But unfortunately, they got him. They executed him, and he was just like a typical, hate to say German, with the mustache and everything, and it looked mean, and it was so sad. And when you go through this book there, when you see what these people endured and some of the pictures they try to hide and draw out was just, it was amazing. It's just unbelievable. And but I liked, they had a sign here like at the other, like in Auschwitz they call it, I don't know what they call it. I got to take a look here. I think it was in the back here. Let me take a real quick look if I can find it, I hope. As it gets to, here it is right here. It's called Arbeit macht free, which meant was the work sets you free. And it really wasn't. When you go to these campsites, these camps, you were going to be executed. You're going to die no matter what. Most of them died there. But it started out as a thing in Germany when Hitler started. It was work to be free was meant to be, because there was such big unemployment in Germany that this was the motto. But then it transferred to these areas here, which actually had a different meaning once it got to the concentration camps. Unfortunately, so. But that's what it was, unfortunately.
Well, they used a lot of forced labor during the Second World War.
Oh, so much. It was so much forced labor to do all these things. They were building munitions and everything. Pots and pans and helmets and name it. They had to use the people that they had because.
And if you didn't do it, you were dead.
You were dead, exactly. And that was a sad part. And like I say, a lot of the people who ran these camps, they got out scot-free, and they got a lot of them, but they didn't get them all nationally. You couldn't. But that's the way it is. So really, another good trip, I must say. I love this trip. I can even do it the third time if I had to. The food is good, like you say. With Gate 1, we had good hotels. We had the Hilton in one end. We had the Imperial in Prague, which I stayed the last. They were very nice,
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, and it was so close to everything. The food is pretty cheap in Prague. It's not expensive, and so much to see. So again, another great trip. And I guess the next one I'll be heading to is the pyramids in November. So we'll talk about the pyramids in Egypt when I come back.
Really?
Yep.
I thought you were heading off to Dominican
Well, that's
Republic
kind of a work related with my son.
Okay.
We're going to review, but I have a chance to do some visiting in that, so we'll do that too.
So you're going to the pyramids?
Yes, definitely.
That sounds like a real interesting trip.
I have to see that one. So.
Well, we'll definitely have to get that on Active Living.
We'll do that again. Okay, George.
All right.
That sounds
well. Thanks very much for joining us, Jim. It's been a great, revealing trip. You did. It sounds like you had a fantastic time.
That I did.
And we were looking forward to hearing from you again on your next adventure.
As we say, keep traveling, right?
Yep. Thank you.